several months ago, Senator Lee went to Blanding and spoke, and he said something that was very helpful to me, personally and politically. He said, sometimes we don't want to say what we have to say, but we have to assert ourselves and our rights and say what needs to be said. And so some of the things tonight are things I feel are important that need to be said, even though they're not real pretty sometimes for other points of view. But I don't want to offend anyone, but I do want to stand up for my right to say what I believe needs to be said. The current commissioner, I like personally. I think he's a very good man. But I do disagree with him on several issues, and those are some of the things I want to talk about tonight. Some of the things that I disagree with that have been happening in the county. First of all, in early 2010, our current commissioner, Commissioner Adams, he's joined up with Senator Bennett before Senator Bennett left office, and he pushed our family very hard and other ranchers out in our area to designate areas of our allotments, voluntarily designate areas of our allotments for wilderness. And he wanted us to compromise with environmentalists. He said, if you do that, we won't be bothered anymore. You won't be bothered by environmentalists anymore. He wanted us to follow what had happened in Washington County in 2009 in their land use bill. And he said it would be a good thing. And he also said, you have to do it before, we have to do it before the end of the year, in just a matter of a few months. Because if you don't do it, then the environmentalists are going to push through the U.S. Senate the Red Rock Lands bill, and come January, and they'll take everything and we'll get no say. Well, that didn't set well with me to be that kind of scare tactic. Also didn't set well with me because I do not think that you can compromise with environmental groups, particularly when they have nothing that they're compromising or sacrificing in this compromise. I found this quote that I really liked. He said, "Be wary of the man who urges an action in which he himself incurs no risk." The only ones who are risking were those of us out there trying to make a living. The environmentalists were risking and compromising nothing, and the commissioners themselves were not really risking or compromising anything, personally anyway, yet they were asking us to do that. So I was not comfortable with that. A couple of weeks ago I spoke to a Washington County commissioner about what happened in Washington County in 2009 with their land use bill, and he told me that their wilderness issue is resolved, that they are no longer included on the Red Rock Lands bill, which is a good thing, but he said they are now dealing with the planning and the process of national conservation areas which are designated in their land use bill. And national conservation areas are not much different than wilderness. There's a little difference, but they're very restrictive. There's no development of the land, and that's what they got. He also told me, and this is the really interesting thing, that they have more wilderness areas now than they had in wilderness study areas prior to their compromise. For example, they said the Beaver Dam area, if you know that area at all, Beaver Dam was not in a WSA, but it is now designated wilderness. So I can't speak for what's good for Washington County, but I don't think that's good for San Juan County. Besides, even if you compromise with one environmental group, it doesn't bind the other environmental groups. And Sue has come out and said, we didn't agree to the Washington County land use bill. There was no consensus with us. We still have lots of work and things we want to do in Washington County. I believe that the Red Rock Lands bill itself is just nothing more than Wayne knows as HR 1500 of 20-some years ago. We've been able to hold it off all these years, and I think we should still continue the fight. And I'd rather go down fighting than give up and fight over desert tortoises and things like that in national conservation areas. Former Commissioner Calvin Black said this, and it's exactly what I believe. He says, "I don't believe you need to lock the land up to preserve and use it. I think you can preserve the land and use its resources at the same time. To lock the land up without using what it has to offer would be to say that the United States was a mistake. If we had not cleared the land and farmed it and used its resources, we would not have developed what we have today. We had to fence the land and use its food and fiber, or we could not continue to live here. We could never have had the American dream. We could never have had the standards of living we have developed. We would never have had the technology and education we have if we had not developed these resources. It is not a matter of protection, but it is a matter of protection and utilization too. There is no source of wealth except in the land. If we do nothing with it, then there is no wealth, and then there's no jobs, and there's no livelihoods. So he says what I believe.